Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of the Crazy Faith Podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Todd, and today we have an incredible episode with Natasha Hastings. This is going to be a fun episode. Before we get into any conversation though, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Agogie. Agogie have pioneered the resistance band apparel industry, creating pants that personally have taken my training to a whole new level. With 8 resistance bands built in, these pants will help increase your training intensity and are guaranteed to improve your overall performance. Get faster, get stronger, and it's as simple as putting on the pants. So once again, as always, huge thank you to Agogie for sponsoring this episode, and get ready to tune in, guys. I really hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Crazy Faith Podcast. I am your host, Jasmine Todd, and I have my beautiful guest, Natasha Hastings, along with her handsome little son, Liam.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
He's so adorable. I'm going to be distracted this whole time just staring at him. So I'm going to give you guys a little background on Natasha and a couple fun facts, and then we'll get into some fun questions and get to know her a little bit more. So Natasha is a 400 meter specialist, and she also runs on the 4x4. She is a very big part of our relay team. I will say that, like, you see our relay teams and Natasha is definitely there, and yes, love it. And I love when she's on there. She brings all the diva-ness to the track too. She was born in Queens, New York. She holds multiple school records. She is a 400 meter indoor and outdoor champion in college. She's got multiple collegiate records as well. She's a 2-time Olympian, 2008 and 2016. She's got 2 Olympic golds in the 4x4. Her nickname is the 400 meter Diva. She started running when she was 9 years old. Natasha also attended the University of South Carolina. She majored in exercise science, and I just can't wait to dive into this conversation. We've got plenty of questions, and as you guys can also see, she is a mother. She's got many hats on her head, so this is track is just one of the many. So before we get into like the now, we're gonna go back to you growing up and getting into track. You started running track when you were younger. What made you get into track?
I would say I was kind of born into it. Both of my parents ran. My father immigrated from Jamaica. My mom came up from Trinidad. She spent some time in London too, but they both came up here on track scholarships. And so I just always knew track. Like their pictures were up around the house. My father ended up coaching their alma mater. And my mom actually also made the 84 team for Trinidad. So I just kind of always remember being around the sport. But I officially joined a team in, you might not have even been born, 1996.
I was born. I was 3.
Okay. I officially joined the team in 1996. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into the organized sport of track and field.
It all started from there, and that was all she wrote, because she has been around and been killing the game since then.
Yeah.
So you competed in high school, you're doing phenomenal in high school, and then you start your recruiting process. What was the recruiting process like for you?
So long ago. No, I'm just kidding. It was exciting, but it was also exhausting. And you know, hindsight now, I realize what a privilege I had and how blessed and how lucky I was that, like, yes, I was talented. I worked incredibly hard, but I really could have gone anywhere. I mean, I was recruited by Stanford, Maryland, Texas, pretty much any D1 school, which was exciting. It's a great feeling to be wanted.
Yeah.
But the actual process was a lot. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by my son in the background.
It's okay.
Make sure he's not killing himself. You got to keep these little people alive. Um, it's bedtime, so he's getting away with it right now. Daylight
Oh,
savings has had us like all messed up. But anyway, um, but no, so I could have gone anywhere, but I knew that I wanted to go to South Carolina probably since I was a freshman. My college coach, Coach Fry, hates to hear that because I definitely still played hard to get. Um, but I knew I wanted to go there because of the tradition of quarter milers that came through South Carolina. South Carolina had the a history of quarter milers and hurdlers. And so I knew very early on, and my mom was gracious enough to where, like, the schools that were recruiting me, she kind of looked and was like, okay, I approve of these schools. You have the grades, you've done the work, they obviously want you, but you have to spend the next 4 years there. So this is your decision.
yeah.
So I took 3 of my 5 visits. Um, it's probably more or less now. I don't know what the no, not right now. Um, yeah. And by the time I got to the fourth one, I was like, I ain't going on no more visits. And I mean, it's a great experience because they fly you out, they wine and dine you.
Yeah.
But I was done. I was tired. I was like, I know where I'm going, son. Do we have to call Granny? Do we have to call Granny? Okay. The podcast is gonna get the real. I'm just gonna do this real quick.
Very understandable. Do what needs to be done.
All right. So yeah. So I mean, we got it done in 3 visits. And I enjoyed my 3 visits, but by the end of the third one, I was like, I'm tapped out. I know where I'm going. Um, but yeah, I would definitely say in hindsight, I didn't realize what a blessing and a privilege it was to have that opportunity where I could basically go wherever I wanted.
Man, amazing. It's definitely a blessing, and it also is a very exhausting process for sure. So you went to college, you were a 2-time NCAA champion, you went undefeated during your junior year. What was it like to be so dominant in your collegiate time?
It was interesting because let me get a better angle right here. Okay. Um my freshman and sophomore year weren't so dominant. And I mean, to be fair, my freshman year I PR'd right away. It was something about like leaving high school and getting into a different training cycle. I came from I would say even now as an adult competing, collegiate track and field is where I learned that I am like a sprint based quarter miler, where when I was in high school, I did a ton of over distance, cross country, all of that. And I'll never forget, even though it was a long time ago, my first day of practice in South Carolina was some 60s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was introduced to sprinting, and sprinting very early on. And like the faster I was in the shorter sprints, the faster my 400 ended up being. But I did battle some injuries. My freshman year, I got injured at indoor nationals in the final. And then my sophomore year, I had bursitis in my right ankle. So I missed like 6 weeks of the off season training, which we know 6 weeks at any time, but especially off season is like a really tough time to, not a good time to miss training.
Yeah.
So my junior year, it was like I went into it with a kind of all or nothing attitude. Like, I went into college thinking of becoming a chiropractor one day. So that's why I studied exercise science. And so I went into my junior year like, okay, so if this don't work out, we need to make sure that these grades and everything is on point. And like start looking at chiro schools and, preparing for that. And I don't want to say somehow, because I mean, I was working hard. I still had my faith in God and everything. But it was literally like week after week. I remember having a conversation with one of my teammates. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm running this fast. Like I'm training hard, I'm doing good in school. I always talk about I still had a social life, I still college. I lived, even though I was focused on my athletics, focused on my academic, I was still social, still, went to parties and stuff. I preach that like having that balance is crucial. Um, but like I was like, I don't know. I'm not complaining, but it was fun. Everybody likes to win.
That is definitely understandable. And that balance is very, very important. Before I even get to the next question, I want to know, did you do any other events? Obviously, you specialize in the floor. Did you ever dabble in any other events before?
So when I started out in the 100 and the 200. I didn't tell you my age in 1996. I was nine turning 10. What are you laughing at? You think that's funny? He thinks it's hilarious. But my coaches knew like right away, like she's a quarter miler. We're just gonna let her have fun in the 100 and 200. And I knew, because even in the 200, like I obviously was better in the 200 than I was in the 100, but I could tell very early on, like I need time to get up to speed.
Yeah.
Son. um so yeah, I've been doing the 400 pretty much my whole life. That is take that back. We tried the 400 hurdles, but my coordination, I shouldn't even say we tried the 400 hurdles. We tried the hurdles. We couldn't get past the hurdles to get to the 400 hurdles because I just didn't have the coordination for it. So we was like, let's just go back to the 400. But I will say one of my overall regrets is that I didn't do other sports, because I do think that the what's the word, the skills from other sports are transferable. And now with this one, I try to put everything in his hands: basketball, baseball, golf. Like I want him to try everything. And then later on, maybe in high school, specialize. Poor thing, he's not even 2 yet, and I'm talking about sports for him. But
He's gonna love it. That child is definitely gonna be an amazing athlete when he gets older. I can just see it already.
We'll see. I'm gonna try my best not to put too much pressure on him.
I know that's gonna be hard.
Yes.
So you have this amazing collegiate career, and now you start to enter this pro world. What was that transition like, and how was that process for you? Also, for those of you that don't know, Natasha is signed with Under Armour. So how was that process for you, and how did you decide on where to go, what agent to go to?
So I did not sign with Under Armour right away. I did sign with another company. I don't name them because I have been branded Under Armour, and that's where my loyalty lies. I plan on having a relationship with them beyond retirement as well. But I mention that because it is a part of my story and a part of my transition from collegiate to pro. So I signed with Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson was my agent out of college. The Michael Johnson, the former 400-meter world record holder. Gotta remember. Mom, are you out there? Okay. Sorry, he ran out of the room. I got to make sure he stays alive.
Please make sure.
And that process, so starting off with selecting an agent, my college coach and my mom had a conversation where my college coach, it was my junior year, and he basically said, I can't keep her here. She's going to have to go after this year. And so my mom started the interview process with agents because, NCAA rules, all that stuff. I was just focused on competing. Everything else that's supposed to happen will happen. So my mom started the interview process with the agents, and kind of similar to college, like, I like these guys. Here, you interview these guys. So she left me with about 3 that I interviewed, and I ultimately decided to go with MJ. And we signed my contract with that other shoe company. But my transition from collegiate to professional was a tough one. It was one that I would say probably took me like 5 or 6 years to figure out. And I say that you go from, you're 18 years old, you go off to college. And although you go off to college and you're sort of on your own, you're still in a position where everything is done for you.
Yeah.
That being, to the extent that, like, hey, you guys got to get massages this week. Sign up for your massage. I need to see you in the training room. Practice is at this time. Weight room is this time. You go from having your college coach sign your scholarship every year to now you basically are the CEO of your business, and you sign your checks to pay your coach, to pay your strength coach, to pay your massage therapist, to pay your physical therapist. Like, all of these things that there's no handbook or even conversations that, like, you go from having everything done for you to it's now all of your responsibility, and you've got to manage all of that, manage your personal life, and then get on the track and perform.
Yeah.
And it was tough for me. It took a while for me to learn the balance. I ended up getting help from a sports psychologist. um, but you're handed a lot of responsibility with sort of no guidance, or and no one talks about these things either. That, like, it just sounds great, like, oh yeah, you're going to sign this big contract and you're going to make all this money, and then it's like, yeah, but the money is meant to be a reinvestment in yourself, because you got to live, pay these people, save, invest, all of these things, like, that you have to learn almost instantaneously. So it was a tough transition for me, and it did take quite a while to figure it out, but I finally figured it out.
You've got it all figured out, and that's good. In 2008, you won your first Olympic gold medal. What was that experience like winning your first medal, period?
So for a while, and the answer still stands. For a while, I was like, it's an experience that I hate the question, because it's like you can't really put it into words, because it's literally a dream come true.
Mm.
But what I also realized, some of why I can't put it into words, was because I was not in the moment and cherished the moment. And by that I mean, um very early in my career, I was very like, I'd get to the city that I'm competing in, I'd be focused on getting acclimatized, focused on my race, you know, getting treatment, massage, all this stuff before my race. And it was after a few years that I had looked through my passport and I was like, oh my God, I have all these stamps. I barely remember any of these places. And I think that kind of lent to why I say, like, it was a dream come true. So I can't really put it to words. Like, I couldn't have imagined being an Olympic gold medalist at 22. All very true, but I also didn't take the time to experience the Olympics. And it becomes a very fleeting moment, because it's like, it happens. I do remember the opening ceremony being amazing. And thinking to myself, I don't know how London's going to top this one, but you're in the village and you're super focused on competing, that the moment goes by. And then afterwards, you get 6 weeks off after the games, or
Yeah.
not even after the games, actually. You still have some meets left after the games. So you go to your meets, and then you get 6 weeks off, and then you're training for the next thing, which is the world championship. So it's always like this constant, like, on to the next thing. That I really don't think I took the time to cherish the moment, cherish, being an Olympic medalist. And so some of that is that it was a fleeting memory, it was a fleeting moment.
Nice. I mean, yeah, that's I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned is you got to embrace those places you're going, and especially because not everyone gets to visit the places that we're attending and getting to go and spend some time in, even if it's for a short period of time.
Hmm.
So after your all-time high in 2008, you get some more medals. You got these world championships. You guys, by the way, if you guys go look up this girl's accolades, she's gold medals all down this list, from world championships to Olympic gold medals, like world relays, like phenomenal. Even going down
I've
to
had a blessed career.
you've had a very, very blessed
very
career, and I don't think that a lot of people give you the recognition that you deserve and how blessed your career really has been, because it's been amazing. And even me going back and looking, I'm just like, wow, like I don't think that I've actually fully realized how many gold medals that this woman actually has. Just insane. So then we reach 2012, where you missed the team, but how did missing that team kind of change your mindset? Because you also came back around in 2016 and made the team. So do you think that missing that team in 2012 kind of had you reset your mindset and got you mentally prepared to what you needed to do and learn going into 2016?
Jasmine, that was a perfect lead up because yes, 2012 is the year that I hands down believe is the defining moment of my career. And when I do just about any speaking engagement talking about my story and my success, I start off with my failures. And I start off with my failures because I think that a lot of times, particularly me, we spend more time focusing on our failures than what we've actually accomplished. Um, and so 2012, I didn't make the team. Definitely a mindset change. I thought about quitting. I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna go back to this ain't working. I'm gonna go back to school, go be a chiropractor. But as fate would have it, my mom was sitting next to a gentleman in the stands at the trials that was a sports psychologist, and mentioned to her that, he's watched me over the years. He'd love to work with me. He thinks I have great potential. And I started working with him, and it was a long process throughout the year. We started working together that fall. So, starting in like October or November, leading into the 2013 season. And it was a process of changing my language of like how I was speaking to myself, um, and really believing in myself and my efforts and being worthy enough to even have the lane that I had, the opportunity, all of those things. And that process was one that really, I say, turned my career all the way around. I mean, 2012, I didn't make the team. 2013, I was US champ. Well, fifth in the race, but now upgraded to fourth. I have two fourth place finishes. Um, just this close, one in 13 and one in 16 in the 400. And then from there on, I just went on to continue to make more individual teams. And I say that your lead up was perfect because I do have a ton of medals. And apart from waiting for everyone else to give me my flowers and give me my recognition that you mentioned, 2016 was the time that I realized that I have to be the one to give myself my flowers. And I say that because, I was there, and, the media has a job to do. The media has a story to tell. And there was just a story being told and someone being celebrated. And I was like, but those medals that we're talking about are the same medals that I share with this person. But and I always have to start this off with, this ain't no shade to that person. This person is a future Hall of Famer. I hands down, she's the GOAT. I respect her. However, it was a moment for me to realize that, my whole career up to 2012 and beyond, it was beaten into my head that your medals don't mean anything because they're relay medals. But in this instance, I saw someone being celebrated, and those medals that I was told don't count counted for her. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not waiting for y'all to tell me what counts. Because what you can't tell me is that I didn't work for this moment, all those moments, all those medals that I do have. So again, talking about like changing your mindset and how you speak to yourself, and 2012 was definitely a pivotal moment of changing how I speak to myself. But in 2016, taking it a step further and realizing that I have to celebrate what I have accomplished on
Yes.
top of the failures, because there are a lot of failures, but my wins are to me that much sweeter because of my failures. But I can't wait for nobody else to celebrate me. I've got to do it for myself. So yeah, a whole lot to that one question that you asked me, but you opened the door
Was needed. The door,
because
look, I opened the door and you gave a perfect answer because it's for real and people do need to hear it. And I think it's also important for other athletes to hear that as well, because there's a lot of other athletes that have just made teams on relays and they don't get that recognition as if they didn't work hard to get there. Those relay teams, I'm sorry, if you make it on a team and you're getting that medal, you worked for that.
and to be quite honest, I think the relays sometimes are more stressful than even your individual races.
Not even
Um,
sometimes they are.
so it's not to say like we got to work hard to be fit, to have the chemistry to run together, get that stick around the track,
Yes.
in the zones,
Yep.
because we're Team USA and they're looking for us to mess up
Yep. The
all of
slightest
those
mess
things.
up.
Like it's a lot. It's no easy feat. So, oh goodness, you're getting the real. He's just.
I love it. I love it.
And I'm trying to like keep going. Don't
Just
just
keep it
adjusting.
flowing. You're doing a great job. Because I know I would be like, can we just pause right here? I'm gonna get up
I'm
really
used
quick.
to it now. He's 20 months old, so come on.
So I think that you actually started to go into my next question, which is you're such a big advocate on mental health. And I know anytime that I've seen you, you've always had a psychiatrist, a sports psychiatrist around you at those big meets and especially at US Champs. I've
Mhm.
always seen you there.
That's so
Um,
interesting that you noticed that. Okay.
yes, I definitely noticed that. I was like, huh. Because I've had talks with my mom, and I'm just like, maybe this is something that we should think about doing. I think
Mhm.
that it's a beautiful thing. And
Mhm.
so yes, I give you your flowers for that because I definitely noticed that. I don't know if anyone else has, but I definitely have. um, what is some advice that you would give to any other athletes that have been kind of in your position or any of the younger athletes that are looking to become pro when it comes to our mental health?
I have a couple of things. First and foremost, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say that, like, hey, I need help. I think as athletes, but also taking it a step further, as Black and Brown athletes, mental health is just not something that we talk about. It's taboo. Um, People think we're superheroes. So the idea that I have to say, hey, I need help with this is bothering me, this is keeping me from reaching my fullest potential, you feel like, it's a show of weakness, but it can actually be the difference in your performance. I can say firsthand, I train like a madwoman. I am the athlete that coach has to tell me. Sorry, I should have closed the door. But I'm the athlete that like the coaches and the trainers will be like, come on, just go sit down. You're clearly in pain. Like, you know, you have to tell me to stop working. So when I wasn't performing, it was clearly not that I wasn't working,
Yeah.
but the cliche saying that they say, it's 90% mental, 10% My college coach, we used to joke and say that like there were times that we were not in any kind of shape, but he could sell us a hype story that we would buy completely into. And
Yeah.
somehow we'd go out there and do some things that it's like either I wasn't in shape to do this, or I bought it so much that I'm still going to go out here and try to do
Yeah.
what it is that you're selling me basically. And I think that our communities, our athletic communities and our Black and brown communities need to be more open to exploring their mental health. And it's one of the main reasons why I went back to school and I'm now studying clinical mental health. And I hope to be that person at the US champs or the trials with athletes, coaching their minds and getting them ready, because I think it's a huge part of our performance. And I do think it's a missing piece of the puzzle. And I'm happy to see that we're starting to move into a space where it's encouraged more, and it's the access for it is provided more. And I hope to fill that space going forward, and continue to show the value of mental health in our spaces.
I look forward to seeing you out there on the other side as well, helping athletes on the mental side. Hopefully, I could be one of them athletes if I'm still going at that
I
time.
don't know. Well, yeah, I have time. I got a year left of school.
So I see you have your own foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, the Natasha Hastings Foundation. Our mission is to be a starting block for girls to become women of confidence in sport and life. I started the foundation probably 3 or 4 years ago, a lot with my experiences in mind, what legacy I want to leave behind, the things that I wish I figured out at 12, 13, 14 rather than 25. So, kind of what I talk. Come on, son. Now's not the time to rearrange furniture. Um, the things that I talked about earlier, as far as like how I'm speaking to myself, my self worth, how I view myself. Um, Also, doing the traditional camps and stuff, clinics. But ultimately, I mean, we really try to teach the girls that sport is platform for anything. And by that, like, one of my favorite statistics to share is that 95% of C-suite level women have played sports at some point or another in their life. So I try to teach that, all the things that you learn from sport is transferable to life. And you may not grow up to be the professional athlete or the Olympian, or you may, but you may not. But if you don't, there are still these other things that um, you can accomplish through sport. And I mean, I talk about everything from the relationships that I've created, how I've traveled the world, and then now my friends that played sport that are now doctors, lawyers, financiers. Like, I really think that just exposing girls to sports and giving them the opportunity to play sports and keep them in sports, because we lose girls from sports at an alarming rate. It really can open some doors for girls to go beyond.
Definitely. And now we're gonna get into your nickname before we get into one of your other hats that you've got. You've got this wonderful name, the 400-meter diva. So how did you, obviously, I mean, I think it speaks for yourself, but for the other people, can you explain how you got your nickname?
How that came about. So, Diva, freshman year, we were going to Penn Relays, and I'm from New York. So, Penn Relays is kind of like a second homecoming. All right, all right. And there were some interviews that the media department had for us to do. So, being from New York, they our media lady asked me to take this interview. And so it's a typical interview, but then the last question was, so why did you decide to go to South Carolina? And I was like, oh, the 400 tradition here. But then, like, the girls were really pretty. And I mean, just for lack of a better word, like, they were just divas. And so we get to Philly and the story ran, the Gamecock Divas return to the Penn Relays. Like that was the headline. And Coach Fry took it and ran with it. When we every year that we go to nationals, we get like special outfits made. He had Gamecock Divas embroidered on the outfit. And so then out of that came the 400-meter diva. So it really wasn't even something that like I sat up one day and was like, I'm the 400-meter diva. It was the Gamecock Divas, and then that came out of that. Yeah.
Wow.
What is so funny? You are sleeping.
He's just delusional at this point. So as we move into your wonderful nickname, you've got a cosmetic line. This is also one of your mini hats.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you got into what you guys haven't? If you just see her on the track, she always slays. But can you tell us how you got into wanting to do a cosmetic line?
So another college thing, Coach Fry was very much so like, Coach Fry? Coach Fry? Okay. Right? Okay. You done? Okay. Coach Fry would always say like, don't y'all come down here without some lip gloss on and mascara. Boys, make sure your hair is cut and you got a good lineup. Like he was always very much, African-American coach wanted us to be presentable. That's something that's always going to be important to, a Black man coaching Black men and women. And so when I turned professional, like, I was still doing the makeup and the hair and, I run in the full face lashes and bright lipstick. And it was also kind of the thing where it's like, I'm dressing up to go to work. Like I'm on TV.
Yes.
I know quarantine, mom life. I'm not done up today. However, sis is on camera, sis is gonna beat her face.
Hey, see her on the track, just know that face is going to be beat, okay?
Beat with a bright red lipstick or purple or, something. So that inspired me to, all athletes are always thinking like, what can I do next? What can I do off the track? And so that inspired the 400-meter diva collection.
And so, also, you're on my podcast, but you have a podcast of your own, Tea Time with Natasha. Can you tell us a little bit more about Tea Time?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you to come on. So thanks for bringing that up. I started. Yeah. Okay. Can you go over there? Thanks. He's cute, but he's a lot of work. Tea Time with Tasha. I don't even know when I started that. Maybe 16 or 7. Maybe I started YouTube in 2017. But it really, like, how did it come about? It's another social media thing. People were asking like questions. It started out as like a Q&A thing. And then I was like, oh, I'm on the road. Let's ask some teammates some things. So it's really just meant to be like super casual, super conversational, showing the other side of who we are. Because like I said, I feel like there's this superhero or plastic thing about us sometimes, and it's really been a cool experience to kind of show the other side, show the relationships that we have off the track. And that's been kind of cool for people to see like, oh wait, y'all are friends, y'all do like, yeah, we're in the trenches together. Like imagine traveling across the world with people and that's the only people that you know. So it's been kind of cool. Lord, today don't climb up there, get down. Liam. Tea Time with Tasha. Thank you.
It's the mom look. I love it.
Sorry.
It is okay. I would love to be a part of it. I think it's amazing. Doing great.
Yeah, we record every Thursday at 4:30. It's live. So as soon as we close here, I'm gonna get when you're available.
Yes. And so, which I mean, we've seen this whole podcast. We've seen the other side of Tasha, one of her other many hats, her being a mom. So I know your story. I don't want to keep you long, so we'll try to make this part quick. But you've had an interesting story where you found out you were pregnant and you went through a lot of different emotions where I think any female athlete, for us especially in track and field, would go through those type of emotions because our sport has not been the most friendly to women wanting to start families.
Mm-hmm.
So can you
Mm-hmm.
share with us your experience in motherhood?
Yeah, motherhood has, it's definitely thankless. But I love it. Um, Obviously, I didn't have him till I was 33, but I can't imagine life without him. I'm like, dang, man, I waited that long. And everything about my experience hasn't been what I planned or thought. Everything from I planned on not starting a family until I retired from the field. And then I also didn't plan to be a single mom. So the whole experience has just kind of been like, I'm just figuring it out as I go. Um, but when I found out I was pregnant, I definitely went through the gamut of emotions of like, yeah, we're talking about you. um, like, is this what I want right now? Um, will I be able to continue to compete? And that instance, there's two things to consider: the support from your sponsors, but then also the physical comeback from having a child. He was due so near to like the start of training for the 2020 Olympics, which, you know, we're in a panorama, so I ended up getting a little extra time. But yeah, it was a tough one. I hid my pregnancy for about 5 months. And then I finally told my sponsor. And um my experience is very different from what the traditional experience has been for female athletes, and it's one that I'm grateful for, and it's one that I do speak high praises of my sponsor for. I think one of the things that made the difference in my experience is that when I had to make the phone call, I made it to a woman. And I think making that phone call to someone who understood where I was coming from every aspect of, I'm just pregnant,
Yeah.
but also like I was afraid of what this meant for my career. And I was met with, I'm not in your shoes in terms of what you do for a living. However, I was afraid to come into my boss and tell my boss that I'm having a child with my husband. And she was like, and when I told my husband, he was looking at me like I had six eyes. He didn't understand. She was like, it's just something that men don't understand. It's a woman's problem. And so, for me, it became larger than just, as an athlete, but this is a woman's problem across the country. Women are only given 6 weeks of maternity leave. How, Sway?
Makes
Childcare.
sense.
Childcare is super expensive. Insurance. There are so many things that, a lot of people don't unfortunately have access to. And these are things that you have to consider when starting a family. So it's no easy feat to go into. It's definitely a love that like you can't imagine, but you're also always tired. But there are so many things that come with it. But I have to say that in my experience, I was blessed in that, my sponsor still stood by me. They rallied behind me and even worked with me in terms of, getting through the final months of my pregnancy, but also putting together a program for me to come back from childbirth. And, it's Natasha 2.0. So like re-strengthening those muscles and working on those things. So it's been a fairly decent experience for me, but I know that unfortunately it wasn't that fair for other women in my position.
Definitely. And all praise to your sponsor, because I distinctly remember, I think they sent you a pair of shoes after you had announced your pregnancy finally.
Yeah.
And I think it was at that moment that it kind of melted my heart to see, just because you could see the support, whereas other athletes, like you said, weren't getting that type of support
Mhm.
from their agency. And so all love to them,
And I
because
do, I can say it because I'm older now. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I do think because in recent weeks there have been advertisements and things that have come out, and I think that performative allyship is it's great if you're going to market a certain thing, that you're celebrating moms and women making the choice to um, start families, which at the end of the day, life can't continue if women don't choose to continue life.
exactly.
But if you're not going to support your athletes, I mean, I think those advertisements really don't mean much. So I can say that without getting reprimanded. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put that out there.
I just shake my head.
I said it. It's okay.
That is that.
I'll take that one for you.
Thank you. So, you mentioned how obviously the Olympics got canceled because we're in a panini. So, um,
I love how everyone gives it their own thing.
so obviously we went through a lot of waves of emotions going through 2020. What was 2020 like for you?
Uncertain. Uncertain is the word that just keeps coming to mind because it was, like I said, I became a single mom. The games were postponed. Like that was the one thing that I was sure that like this is in place, this is happening. I've been to 2008 where it was the air quality is going to be an issue. We got there and it was great. 2016 was the Zika. Didn't see a mosquito. The media has a story to tell. They're just the Olympics is $1 billion production. Nobody has time to cancel the Olympics. So
Right.
when it happened, I was like, oh wait, what? Say what now? Y'all are doing what? And it was postponed. I think I don't remember how long it took, but it was like maybe a month or so before they said, it'll be this summer 2021. And I think you can attest to this, that we live on a cycle. We live on,
Yeah.
training cycle is this, competition starts this time, we're training for this. And it was like, okay, well, you got to stay in shape. What am I staying in shape for?
That
I
part
don't.
right there. What
We gonna have some track meets this summer.
is there gonna be meets? Because everything was slowly getting
They
canceled.
telling me I can't even leave my house. I'm doing workouts in my garage.
Yes.
What? Huh? What are we? So, really, I mean, I think again, as athletes, we hear it all the time, focus on controlling the controllables and like trying your best to let go of what's out of your control. Um, I'll never forget my coach. One of the things that he did say to us was, I'm not worried about you guys being fit, but I don't want to mentally fry you all. So we're going to adjust some things because, yeah, we don't know when our next track meet is, but I don't want you guys to keep coming out here and I run you guys into the ground and mentally you're just done. This is a lot to take on right now. And I'm grateful that I had a coach that was cognizant of that
Yeah.
because we've been hearing a lot of stories about upticks in, mental health issues across the board for everyone, whether
Yes.
it's, abuse, you're stuck at home, food insecurity, all these things that the pandemic has caused. And my coach was, really cognizant of the fact that like you guys are going to need a mental break. And so it was kind of good for us in the sense, or I shouldn't speak for everyone, for me in the sense that I still did it was something that I could still go to my job every day after
Yeah.
a while. Because I think for a couple of months I stayed I did things around the house and I ran in the neighborhood. But, you know, as much as track is my job, it's still kind of an outlet. So, you know,
Right.
being able to get out and get fresh air and do physical work and let off steam in that way was a blessing. But it was definitely an uncertain time. Mhm. Because no one knew what 2021 was gonna look like, or even the rest of 2020. I mean, we
Yeah.
started off thinking it was just going to be a 2-week thing, and here we are a year later, still kind of sort of in quarantine. Like,
In a weird place still. Like, are we
yeah,
quarantined or are we outside?
I'm quarantining. I ain't all the way outside yet. I'm still like, COVID is still real, y'all. Chill
I'm
out.
still inside. Keeping it all inside. And
Hmm.
now, as we wrap it up, I've got just fun random questions for you now.
Okay.
So the first question is, if we put you on an island, deserted island, there's no place that's closed. You could bring any 3 items. What 3 items are you bringing?
Any 3 items? Definitely my iPhone. Definitely a bomb lipstick and probably some chocolate covered almonds.
Ooh, oh, that sounds so good. I want some chocolate. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good. Okay, so if you could be any animal, what animal would it be?
A dog, I guess.
Dogs live a good life.
Yeah, I was about to say my dog lived a pretty darn good life, so I guess I would be a dog.
Spoiled life. So I would
Hopefully, I have
definitely
some nice owners.
that part. And then the third and final question. So our sport has a lot of different event groups, and each of the event groups kind of have their own types of personalities that go along with them. What event group is the funniest?
Um, ay, ay, ay. I want to say the throws, but then I also feel like the men's hurdlers are funny. But then I don't know. I mean, I guess I do have to lean more towards the field events because then now I'm thinking about some jumpers too that are pretty funny. But I know I will start off with the throwers. The throwers are the funniest.
The throwers. They're always a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Tasha, thank you so much for coming on the Crazy Faith podcast. We will definitely be linking about Tea Time with Tasha because
Yes.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Crazy Faith podcast. Once again, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Agogie. With 8 resistance bands built in, Agogie's resistance pants have pioneered the resistance apparel industry, helping increase your training intensity and improving your overall performance. Get faster, get stronger, and it's as simple as putting on the pants. So once again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait for you guys to hear the next one. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and remember, maintain